Okay, we're going to start the fourth segment of Contact Report 31. I think this is probably one of the longest contact reports they've done. But we've done the first three videos. This will be the fourth video. Contact Report 31, and here we go. Therein lies also the deepest reason for the fact that we and others from other planets strive to spread the truth on Earth by selecting individual Earth humans and through telepathic impulses, which they generally do not recognize as such, convey the truth to them, which they then should disseminate so as to finally teach the goodness and the truth to the Earth humans. Again, I am disseminating. I know it sounds weird, but I am disseminating the contact reports as well. But that task is very, very difficult to fulfill because the madness of the religions of the often death-bringing sects has become so rampant on Earth that only with the utmost effort can it be reasoned with. Especially those religions and sects who in their heretical book name the prophet Emmanuel as Jesus Christ and worship him are the strongest opponents of the real truth. These are the Christian religions and sects, but also Islam and Hinduism as well as Judaism must be named as dangerous religions, and the same with certain parts of Buddhism in which serious heresies come to light. Particularly, all possible sects from all religions are very dangerous and are greatly falsifying the truth, whereby in times to come many murders, suicides, and mass suicides will happen through them. Billy, that will cause quite a turmoil, Ptah, when you later transmit your words to me and I write them down, because many will read your interpretations then. Ptah, it will surely be so, but the truth can no longer be concealed. It has become of urgent need to give voice to it. Billy, as you say, because it does not matter to me, I have long since recognized and come to terms with the truth. Ptah, this is well known to me from Askit, who explained everything to me. So I also know that you have even fathomed the truth through a travel into the past with her. Billy, why do you say that? Why do you say that? You have forbidden me to talk about it. Ptah, the facts are indeed not known, but now is the time to talk about it openly and to write it down. Semyazi interrupts our conversation. Semyazi, we have reached our destination. Billy, what is that now? And I see in front of us or above us an enormous radiant apparition, shimmering in all colors, which seems more than fantastic to me. Ptah, that is our goal. If you want, you can take a photo of it. This structure is produced by a spaceship that you can recognize there, very far ahead in the ring-like center. Here our universe ends, and this structure stands as the gateway to another universe, which we call the Doll universe. And there's a picture that Billy took here. Billy, man, this is enormous. It must certainly have close to 50 kilometers in diameter, and the length of this tunnel, man, oh man. Semyasi, you err very much in your measuring. The diameter of the tunnel amounts to 177,000 meters, and its length totals 7,103,000 million kilometers. Billy, fantastic, but why are we getting so close to it? Semyazi, because we will cross over. Billy, cross over to another universe? Semyazi, sure, over to the Doll universe. Billy, I am going crazy. Semyazi, that you will surely not, because you can cope with more than you want to admit. Billy, do we have to go to another space-time dimension or something? And what is actually about this Doll universe that seems so familiar to me? Semyazi, we will remain in normal timeline and normal space. You see, we are already far inside the tunnel and nothing changes. But as for the doll universe, does this not remind you of anything? It is a twin universe of our Dern universe. Billy, it seems very familiar, at least the name. Semyazi, that light there in the center. Semyazi, we have crossed over. We are on the other side. Billy, this I can also see. You really are preparing surprises for me. But look there in front. There floats a large spaceship, and very far back are countless stars. Semyazi, sure. That ship there is our goal. Billy, its shape seems familiar to me as the name doll did before. Semyazi, you are very forgetful, but that is typical of you. You have the great ability to apprehend everything again by intuition when you need any information, and because of this, you do not need to store many things in your memory. Billy, that may be true, Semyazi, but wait a minute. Doll, that girl, that was back then. Asket told me then that she came from the doll universe. Man, I am stupid. Of course, that is it after all. That is the solution of the riddle. You really know how to prepare surprises for me. Surely Asket must be hidden inside the box there, right? Semyazi, let yourself be surprised. Billy, then it is true. Hey, why are we rushing so fast and getting so close? Do you want to ram the ship? Ptah, no, we are only getting close enough to it to go over in the shortest possible time. That is, you and Semyazi. Billy, am I to... Semyazi, of course. Come on, now, let's go down to my beam ship. Semyazi takes me by the hand and pulls me to a kind of metal box next to the horseshoe-shaped switch and control gear console. There is no door on the box, but instead a hole in the floor measuring about 1 meter in diameter, which is illuminated by a shimmering blue light. A shaft that goes into an endless depth and seems to have no end. I look down and see that very far below, the walls of the shaft get closer and finally seem to touch. I cannot see the end. It is clear to me that the self-narrowing of the shaft far below is only an illusion. Man, and now we are supposed to step into it? Semyazi, simply step into the shaft and let yourself slide down. Parentheses. Oh boy, this is just crazy. I will shoot through the hole like a torpedo and land directly in hell. But okay, Semyazi did say that I should jump in. Okay, I will just do it then. She must know if the thing is really fit for this purpose. Probably more than all my bones I cannot break. The deeper than directly to hell, I probably cannot dive either. Well, jump already, comrade, and I jump. Man, I am really hanging in the air. Oh, now it is slowly going downwards, and now it gets faster and faster. Oh boy, this is really a sliding shaft. I look up. Aha, there comes Semyazi as well. Man, this is great, but why am I suddenly slowing down? Oh, there is already ground beneath me. I am standing on solid ground now, and here are again all the many beam ships from before. We are at the hangar. Semyazi, do you have any thoughts? I must tell you that. Semyazi, you do have thoughts. I must tell you that. Just what have you thought of a hell? That is but nonsense. Billy, I know. It's just a type of thought that I have. Semyazi, sure, I understand. Come on, let's go to my beam ship. We walk over to the ship, let ourselves be lifted inside, and already the hatch closes behind us. Semyazi, you are probably a little excited. Billy, is that so strange? If one is suddenly to see someone whom one never expected to see again, and all this in a place that is so fantastically far from my home world, that I am no longer able to conceive the distance from there to here in the slightest. There is also the grandiose thing that this meeting is occurring in a universe that is foreign to me. I really do not know, Semyazi, if I can digest all of this, and if I will not go crazy. What is your opinion, on the other hand, about the fact that I get sad and mad when I think that I must go back to Earth? I could howl when I think of it. I would prefer to stay away forever. Semyazi, that is understandable, but would you be able to take responsibility for that? Billy, no, because I know that I have to fulfill my task and I still have other unavoidable obligations. Semyazi, you see, you are not able to escape from your self-generated obligations. You know how very important the fulfillment of your mission is and that you must go on your path. This is very important because only so are you able to sequentially pass through the evolution. If your fellow humans were to think and act just like you, then everything would be easy and peace and love would prevail. If you really wanted to stay with us, though, we would be very understanding and we could really provide this possibility for you as well. That really is only up to you. So she just offered to let him stay in the Pleiadian worlds. Billy, thank you, Semyazi. Your words honor me immensely, but I know for sure that I really have to go back. I cannot simply deny and drop the responsibility towards my family and towards my fellow humans, even if the prospect of going back to my unpeaceful, sorrowful, and material world seems very difficult for me. Semyazi, I did not expect another answer from you. We are now ready to float over. The lock is open. I see that the hangar doors have opened themselves during our short conversation. Now the small beam ship slowly rises and floats toward Asket's huge spaceship, which hangs in free space only a few hundred meters away. As in the giant from which we departed, we float into an airlock, which, however, is very much smaller than the one on Ptah's space giant. Now we are inside, and immediately the opening closes behind us. Everything happens very quickly, and we then let ourselves float down through the exit to the floor of the small hangar. Here we stand now, and all around I see only metallic, light-emitting walls. There are no other beam ships in here, only ours. Without a word, I follow Semyazi, who approaches a wall on the right side in which an opening suddenly appears, through which we pass now. And behind us, the small passage closes again. We are now in a cozy room with very comfortable seating accommodations and some structures which obviously have to be tables. And man, she is actually there. Asket stands there, smiling. I feel stupid, but I really cannot speak. A whole damn lump sits again in my throat, and it makes me choke pathetically. What is this now? Man, oh man, what is this now? Am I so soft now that I want to cry? Oh boy, just what is this then? Is this really happening, or am I just dreaming? No, it is actually the reality. Asket is actually walking towards me now, wordless and smiling. She now grabs my hand and squeezes it and suddenly pulls me towards herself. Man, the sudden warmth from her body and the firm pressure of her arms. Man, oh man, it truly is the reality. I am not dreaming. Girl, oh girl. And Asket, you really are not dreaming, but be very lovingly welcomed. It is a great pleasure and honor for me to welcome you here. Man, and then in parentheses, man, what are you doing? Asket, what? You give me a kiss on the cheek. Girl, what is with that? I always thought that this would be a thing that is only done on Earth. Asket, do you really think that? Billy, huh? I do not understand. What do you mean? Asket, I was able to capture your thoughts. Billy, that too. I am sorry, Asket. Ask it. You must not be sorry. Billy. Thanks, but now let me take a good look at you first. Girl, you are simply beautiful, and you have not changed at all. Of all, of oh, of course, you know how very happy I am to be able to see you again and talk to you. Girl, that is much more than I ever dreamt. I thought at your departure that I would never see you again. Surely you knew then that there would be another reunion. Why did you not say anything about it? Ask it. The possibility of this meeting was not taken into consideration then, which is why I also could not mention it. But I see that a change has occurred. I am sorry. Billy, you mean my arm? Ask it. Yes. Billy, you know, I have already gotten used to it a long time ago, and now I cannot imagine a life with two arms anymore. I have long forgotten about it. In addition, I was able to prepare myself for it during a year and to find a way of dealing with it before the arm was lost. You told me the whole thing in advance. Perhaps you no longer remember it. Ask it. If you say it, then it must be so. I know about that, but not very accurately anymore. But why do you not wear any help? Billy, on Earth, unfortunately, these things are still very primitive. Ask it. I could have a device made for you which would completely replace your arm, a semi-organic apparatus. Billy, many thanks, Ask it. That is really very kind of you. But believe me, I can no longer imagine a life with two arms, and on the other hand, I know very well that I have not simply lost my arm for nothing. The accident and the loss of the arm had to be. I have learnt a tremendous amount from this and will certainly continue learning a lot more. Ask it. These thoughts are very worthy of you. From my part, I just thought that a help with certain things would be useful to you. Billy, I thank you very much, Ask it, but I really do not want it. You know, such an apparatus would also bring forth too many problems on Earth. We have many limb amputees who would also need this equipment and to whom I would be unfair if I had to withhold it from them. Added to that is the big problem that many of these humans, if they had such aid, would again become dissatisfied life forms. You know that it is like that with us, that the person often falls prey to materialism again, if she becomes well again soon. On the other hand, scientists and governments also come behind the matter, and that could lead to a disaster. Namely, if I had such a semi-organic apparatus or prosthesis, I could certainly not conceal it for long. The result would be that it would be taken from me and examined very closely. And if it were semi-organic, then the clarification and determination of all the details would not be very far ahead. And therefore, the gathering of any profound insights from which the scientists could then produce robots and the like, which in turn would be used for evil and military purposes. So the catastrophe would inevitably come upon the earth. As tempting as your offer is, Ask it. For those reasons alone, I cannot accept it. Ask it. Those are unselfish words, dear friend, and you are right with them. 2. I had not really thought. I allowed myself to be guided by my compassion alone. Semyazi, in many of these things, he truly thinks and acts precisely like us. Billy, leave that now and do not throw flowers anymore. Ask it. You have not changed. You are still so modest. Now a wall opens in the background and on the left side, and another female Wesson comes in. Ask it. This is Nira. She is my representative. I spontaneously extend my hand to Nira, and once again I notice a very firm and pleasant pressure of the hand. Billy, I am pleased to meet you. Somewhat silly words, but what else can I say? Nira, your words are good, and do not think of them as silly. From my part, I am pleased to welcome you here. Billy, have you groped in my thoughts? Nira, laughing. If you mean by that, Have I entered into your thoughts? Then no. Your thoughts are just extremely strong, as a consequence of which they cannot be ignored. Billy, I see, but in what matters do you stand as Ascot's representative? Nira, I am the second coordinator. Billy, that is the location of points in space or something similar, is it not? Semyasi, surely. Then you are not the commander of this ship, Ascot? Ascot, no, I am the first coordinator here. The guidance or the command of this ship rests with Stalar. Stalar? Billy, man or woman? Ascot, that is the name of a man. Regrettably, you will, however, not see him. We will remain together down here in this room. So, according to your sense, we are among ourselves quite privately. But before we talk together, I would like to clear up with Semyazi the facts which need to be settled. In the meantime, you can talk with Nira. It will not take long. Good. Then with Nira I will talk. She is evidently also a very dear and nice girl. Nira, laughing. Am I that? Billy, what do you mean? Oh, I understand. My thoughts. Yes, I perceive it in a fine spiritual manner. Nira, you allow yourself to be very deeply guided by feeling impulses, and these feelings are very sincere. I have not been able to observe this in Earth humans before. Billy, huh? You observed who? Nira, why should I not? I have been on Earth on several occasions already. But that was a long time ago. Billy, so that is the reason. I understand, but may I perhaps know if you or Ascot are coming there again soon? Nira, in your time, not anymore. Billy, but only when I am already long dead and rotten? Nira, excuse me, she laughs heartily. You seem to have overcome the horror of death planted in you by your religions, by the religions. Billy, should I not have yet? It is just nonsense. Nira, that is correct. Yes, we will go there after your departure from the earth, a very long time afterwards. Billy, why? Nira, it is all related with the terrestrial evolution. Billy, aha, then it would be pointless to ask about the how and why. Nira, if you mean regarding the details, then you are correct. She's not going to tell him why they're coming back. Billy, okay, that's what I thought. Then I will not question myself about it either. But can you perhaps explain to me now why it is that already with Semyazi and now also with you, I am practically only confronted with female Wesson beings? See explanation. Is there a specific reason for that, or did it just happen to be so? In other words, he keeps being contacted by women. Ascot and Nira and Semyazi. Nira, has Semyazi not informed you about that? Billy, no, and I never asked about it either. Nira, okay, so I will explain it to you that on one hand with us and also with Semyazi's people, we know of no value difference between male and female Wesson, as is the case on Earth. With us, both sexes are acknowledged as both equally valuable and entitled. For this reason, our beam ships are also staffed accordingly by male and female life forms, whereby every position is also filled alternately by both sexes. In your case, in particular, however, Ascot noticed in your contacts back then that you can get along with female life forms much better than it would be possible with male life forms. This fact is extremely pronounced in you, and you have a still unknown to us capacity to feeling relatedly empathize with female life forms, by which you apprehend their deepest feelings and are able to analyze them if you want to. Therefore, it was logical for us to bring you mainly into contact with female life forms and to involve male life forms only there. where we were able to determine with the highest probability data that they would be able to trigger the necessary feeling swinging waves in you. With the highest probability data, this fact derives from the existing knowledge in you that, on the one hand, the female life forms have always been oppressed and enslaved by the male life forms, and that, as a rule, even if some exceptions, on the other hand, since time immemorial, it was practically only the male life form who carried the responsibility for all those things which drove the Earth humans into irrational teachings, wars, slavery, exploitation, and consciousness-based unfreedom. This is our probability calculation, and its highest value, and the reason why we practically only make contacts with you through female life forms. Billy, the things with the feelings are not new to me. Nevertheless, Sorry, quick glitch. Okay, Billy. These things with the feelings are not new to me. Nevertheless, your justification still surprises me. But it may actually be possible that you have hit the nail right on the head, because I actually think along these lines. This may also be the reason why I am very picky about men when I have to work with them more closely. It is totally not the case that I could not stand around them, or that I despise or even hate them. No, absolutely not. It is just that they often startle me with their behavior, thoughts, and actions, because they always want to establish that the female Wesson must be subservient to them and that they are masters of the world. They are also very much materialistic thinkers than women in general, and also with their sensitivity and their feeling capacity, they are not quite up to par. The female Wesson is much more developed in these things, but also only because it has been oppressed by the male world for thousands of years and doomed to futility. This higher development in women is probably also what draws me to them and why I find them to be better and more understanding conversation partners. Nira, that is a true word, behind which, however, many more things are hidden. Billy, it may be so, Nira, but where have Asket and Semyazi gone to? They were in the airlock room just a while ago. Nira, Semyazi is bringing a time projectile back to us. That is what she has gone to get now. Billy, oh yes, Semyazi told me something about it. Are you allowed to tell me what the thing is? Nira, for 9 years we have been researching a new technology for time travel over unmeasurable distances and time periods, and also across various universes without the need to open a barrier. For this purpose, we have developed small spiral-shaped time projectiles, which for now we are transmitting from and to the present time, specifically from our universe's present time into yours. And since Semyazi understands these technologies and works with us, it is only understandable that we guide some of our projectiles to your own Earth. 3 years ago, we transmitted the last projectile to Earth, where unfortunately it could not be found for a long time because of a very small error that had arisen in the time calculation. Thus, the projectile landed several thousand kilometers to the east of the intended target because the Earth had rotated by this distance during the course of the projectile's journey. This mistake was discovered some months ago by us, and so we were able to find out where the projectile had actually landed. Semyazi effectively found it then and has brought it back to us now because it is very valuable for us. But they are already returning now. Billy. Aha. And why has Semyazi not transported the thing back here by other means, like time travel or hypertransport or something? Nira, because she agreed to a reunion with you and Asket, wherein the projectile would also be brought. Billy, man, oh man, so did in fact make this giant voyage only to give my humble self a chance to see Asket again? Man, oh man. So they did, in fact, make this giant voyage only to give my humble self a chance to see Ask It again. Ask It. That is actually so, because I also wanted to see you one more time. Billy, that is wonderful of you, Ask It. That is really wonderful. Ask It. We too are only plain human creatures in which feelings move. Billy, which unfortunately you do not always want to display visibly, as I have noticed. That is really a shame. Ask It. Allowing feelings to be recognized is not always good. Billy, that certainly has its correctness. However, in my opinion, you just give yourselves too little to these feelings, although they move you. Semyazi, that is right, but we have already talked about it. Billy, I know. You obviously do not want to talk about it more because it also involves you. Good. Then we we leave it as it is. But now I have a special question for you, Ask It. For a long time I have been trying to get Semyazi's permission to take a photo of her. Unfortunately, however, I cannot get consent from her. But how would it be if I could capture you and Nira on my film now? Would you allow that? Ask It. If this would please you, then of course. With Semyazi, unfortunately, if you took a photo of her and were to distribute it on the earth, her security would no longer be guaranteed. For this reason, she also had to prohibit this when certain difficulties emerged in your group. I only fear that the photos you take of me and Nira now will not come out very well. But why not then, Billy? Billy, but why not then? Ask It. I know from my stay on Earth that the images were always very poor, and when they were taken aboard our ship in the surroundings, they mostly were very unsharp and simply blurred. This has to do with certain energy radiations which are harmless to living forms but distort everything and often impair and change the colors of colors film. Billy, so you have dedicated yourself to filming then? And what about the apparatus which Semyazi assembled for me to get better photos? Ask It. For my own interest, I have occupied myself with photography, and so I also recognize the difficulties with the wavering energy radiation, which is even able to destroy the film in some cases. But what apparatus are you speaking of? Billy, Semyazi assembled a device for me to be able to take photographs better. Ask It turns to Semyazi and shortly talks with her, and now she explains the following to me. Ask It. Semyazi has explained to me what type of device it is, which unfortunately you would not understand. I am sorry to tell you that the images with this device will certainly not be very good either. But we will strive together to construct an effective device to provide you with better photo material on a later opportunity. But if you nevertheless want to take some pictures of us now, then you may do so. If you make no use of it and keep it only for yourself, then you may take a group photo of us all, including Semyazi. Billy, thank you, Ask It. Of course I will keep it for myself, if it comes out good. Ask It. So take the photo now. At a later point in time, you will also be allowed to take several photos of Semyazi when she is no longer at risk on Earth. But this may take several more years or even decades. For my part, being recognized makes no difference because I will not return to the Earth for the time being. With Nira, it is the same. Besides, in the whole universe, there are life forms that look deceptively similar to each other, whereby a person can be mistaken for someone else. You call this doppelganger. Billy, I understand. I will take the photos now. In parentheses, Ask It, Nira, and Semyazi stand together, and I take more photos now. Unlike Semyazi, Ask It and Nira do not wear spacesuits but normal clothes, which are actually quite different from those I know of Earth women's clothing. But they are very well dressed with them. Later, it turned out, unfortunately, that the group photo was completely unrecognizable. Semyazi, that should probably be enough because we still have many more things to talk about. Not all of this is destined for the knowledge of the earth humans, but only for you and us. So I will have to leave many things from the following discussion out of the later transmission. You will now be initiated into facts which are ahead of the earth human's evolution by more than 470 years, and which you therefore must never mention. Each form of life has a certain time span, which in accordance with the evolution may be skipped without damage arising from it. On average, this possibility for the earth humans is just 9.4 months. According to the consciousness-related development of level of the present time. A few exceptions are formed by earth humans with highly developed spirits, in which case a skipping span of 89.7 years may be awarded. Billy, I can indeed accept these explanations, Semyazi, even if I cannot calculate the numbers you mentioned by myself. But what you said about my person is not evident to me anymore, because it stands in direct contradiction with your explanation. Somehow a serious mistake must have impaired you. You said just now that you want to initiate me into things which stand by 470 or more years ahead of the earth human's evolution. That is not evident to me. You just mentioned an average time of 9.4 months and a maximum time of 89.7 years. I cannot decide, but in my megalomania, I presume that I am a little above average and therefore can skip about 15 or 20 years of development with very good help. It is therefore likely to be a serious violation of the laws of the creation if you want to initiate me into things which are ahead of my own development stage by more than 470 years. Ask it. Dear friend, even your modesty must know its limits. What you have pronounced just now represents an unjustified self-abasement. You let feelings germinate in me thereby which are not of a joyful nature and which arouse impulses of a rebuking kind. It should be told to you that your modesty is already getting out of control into forms of self-abasement which you must fight against in yourself. It is not acceptable that you deny the extent of your own consciousness, your true knowledge of the spiritual teaching and the creational laws and recommendations and your wisdom. Recognize at last that an excessive modesty and selflessness are equivalent to an evil Ausertung, which inevitably always demands its negative tribute. So if you do not work on yourself very quickly in this regard, and correct this error, then you will not be able to do justice to your mission. Only by the rectification of these errors will you obtain enough initiative to be able to accomplish your task. We all know very well that you repeatedly got yourself in dire straits on your home world because of your humility and selflessness, and are now standing near the end again. We know very well about the circumstances on earth and are aware of the significance of your so-called money, which you need to live as much as the air you breathe. And these are the main things which are affected by your humility and selflessness. Because where other humans, earth humans, demand money as compensation for their hard work, you work for nothing, and even let yourself be deliberately deceived. You yourself behave exactly according to an old and erroneous saying of your world that it is more blessed to give than to receive. However, every work is worth its wages, and always in its appropriate and different values. The wages consist on the one hand of consciousness-based ones, and on the other hand of material values. And especially on your world, the material values are very highly considered and represent the living possibilities to a very high degree. Therefore, you must also be rewarded for each work with material values as well as with consciousness-based values in equal measure. It If therefore we have chosen you as it was destined among 3,500,000,000,000 earth humans for a certain mission, then you must also be able to feed and take care of your family through this mission. Through the fulfillment of your mission, you are executing a job just like any other working earth human. In comparison with all the other working earth humans, yours is, however, the most valuable and the largest of the current time as well as for the coming future in what concerns the furthering of evolution. And it truly is a work that requires a wage, even more than any other work. That is the course of your homeworld, which also you cannot evade. You maintain the contacts with Semyazi and us, and you write down all the reports which are transmitted to you by us, Semyazi, and by Arahat Atharsata, to lay them bare one day to the earth humans as a milestone of truth, knowledge, wisdom, and love. In your very questionable modesty and your equally very questionable selflessness, you, however, work very long hours every day until the approaching exhaustion, without bearing in mind that you also have to keep your family and yourself alive. Truly, your humility and selflessness were a very important prerequisite for us to contact you, because it was only through the existence of these two factors that the possibility was created that you would also spread your self-generated knowledge and wisdom partially acquired from our transmissions correctly and without wanting to profit from the earth humans. You also have in yourself the necessary and sincere love for all life forms, even when you want to hide this through hard speeches and words. An excessive modesty and selflessness, however, dear friend, are your most dangerous enemies. So do not think that you should do all the work simply because you stand as the predestined one. On the one hand, the work is really not only up to you, but also to many others who will also join you in the coming decades, who you can initiate and to whom you will have to transmit everything. Also, your present as well as your future extended interest group is therefore included, in which every single person must strive to be helpful as well, if success is to be achieved. On the other hand, it becomes impossible by all this that in addition to the voluntary and self-imposed work connected with your mission, you can still pursue a wage and employment, so that you can assure the subsistence of you and your family. In relation to the mission, you are doing work that is decidedly more important and greater than any other human being on earth, regardless of their occupation. But also this work, or precisely this work, must bring you enough income in order to be able to survive and also secure a livelihood. It is therefore completely incorrect of you to say that all your hard work is carried out for no recompense when you look at it from a material point of view. You cannot and should not pass along the reports and everything else free of charge, but you must provide everything with reasonable prices and also make a little profit. Only so can you survive and also accomplish your mission. Therefore, work hard on yourself and fix the excessive modesty and unselfishness. We know, moreover, that you have entirely renounced materialism, which demands a great praise. But remember that you live in a materialistic world and that you must adapt yourself to it to the extent that you assure the everyday life and its needs. So, if things with you are not oriented in a manner that would allow you to engage with the, for you, forbidden financial material matters, then ask a close friend to deal with them and to take care of them for you. Otherwise, you have to learn them for yourself. If you do not follow this advice, then within a few months you will have to bring everything to an end again, as already back in India. But that is not the purpose of all this, because the time is short and the events in your world call for the dissemination of the truth. Remember these words and behave accordingly. And now I would like to give you some more advice, because the way you and your group have been working so far leads to no realization. Many months have passed since your first contact with Semyazi, months of useless time in which no major progress has been achieved. Neither you nor your group have achieved any success if we disregard very minimal things of none or very little importance. It has been a very long time already since you all strive very intensively in all things and have stepped into the general public of the earth humanity. However, you will not be able to do this through empty discussions and disputes because they bear no fruit. We know well the views of some that everything must start small, which for many things may well be the truth. This kind of small, however, which is being considered and applied, is completely meaningless and fruitless, because it will never bring success. The time has now come when you must be proactive and reach the general public. This, however, you cannot do in secret and not only in narrow circles. The general public is important, and so are many other groups and communities which are interested in certain things. But this general public and also other groups and communities cannot be reached only with spoken words and letters to promote the purpose of the mission. For this, you need a medium that is able to take many things at once and clearly define them. You call such an organ, newspaper, etc., and only such a publication can be of benefit to you. It will not be possible for you to have such a newspaper, etc., coming out daily or even weekly, but you have all the possibilities to produce such an information in monthly or multi-monthly intervals and to distribute it. And now a word about your assumption that Semyasi would have been mistaken with the time periods of evolution-based skip-over years, because that is really not so, dear friend. Currently, you are the only Earth human who is already so highly developed in consciousness with respect to the spiritual science of creational form that you may be granted an evolutionary-based skip-over period of 500 years. This is indeed not the highest amount of all the possible times, but you have already achieved and mentioned large amount. You may realize this in yourself if you honestly and very accurately observe and analyze all the existing consciousness standings of earthly life forms. You are truly the only person in your home world at this time who is unwavering and unyielding and who holds fast to the real truth of the creational laws with absolute knowledge and without doubt. This had to be said to you at one point. Semyazi, it is actually so, and it really had to be said at one point. Billy, all right, I will try very hard not to continue with these mistakes, as Ascot has called them. It is probably right what you said, although I feel a little concerned. But I will really try because I want to successfully fulfill my duty as I really must. It is also clear to me with respect to the publication media you mentioned, because this would also, in my opinion, be a good or perhaps the only method in which to be able to disseminate everything quickly. But I have become completely exhausted financially and cannot really undertake anything new. I would probably see a possibility if I could buy a suitable machine to print a newspaper or a monthly magazine, and also many other things, but I really have no capital available, except the essential emergency reserve. I also know that within a few months I will be completely at the end if nothing happens to the contrary. But I do not know how I can change that, because for my part I am at wit's end and no longer know what else I could do. I really do not know if you could help me. Semyazi, the idea of the machine you mentioned is very good, and it would be very pleasant if you could get the necessary means for acquiring it. However, we will endeavor in a decisive manner for it. This would help you extraordinarily and accelerate the fulfillment of the task, even in the early stages as well. If your group members would help you voluntarily through our impulses in this regard, then you certainly could resolve this problem in one form or another. I cannot tell you, however, that you have to purchase such a machine, because these things must be left to you and your group. You yourselves must take the decisions in these matters. We do not come to you in order to command you, but to inform you and to support you in certain things and directions. We bring you a certain good, but you must manage and process it and raise it to useful values in yourself. Therefore, we cannot give you orders or explain to you in advance what the future holds in certain things. If you knew this, then we would deprive you of development periods which you must inevitably go through. Your efforts would also be compromised thereby as a result of a remission of efforts. Therefore, I can only say that the idea in relation to the work machine you mentioned is very good. It is allowed for me to explain that the beginning will be very hard and everything will slowly turn to the better. But if you really can purchase such an apparatus or such equipment. In regards to our help, which we could give you in the form of material things, I have already talked about it several times. I have explained to you the facts about certain possibilities of crystals, etc., which you could sell. This, in addition to the aforementioned impulses, is the only help that we could offer. However, this is also only possible if you finally reach the Earth humans with some means of information and mention and explain this possibility. Otherwise, my suggestion remains just a suggestion. Billy, this is clear to me, Semyazi, but I do not know if I can do anything. Ask it. If you channel your excessively modest and selflessness in normal, viable potentialities, then you can also talk about these things in your group and explain everything. Billy, that will not be easy, though. Ask it. It surely will not, because more or less all of the group members are still very strongly pending towards materialism, and on the other hand, they do not want to understand that only you are qualified to have contacts with us. This is a doubt in them which they can only eradicate with great difficulty. Semyazi has already stated several times that under no circumstances can anything be changed regarding your exclusive right and your exclusive qualification, yet a lot of questions are still being raised on why it could not be otherwise. Semyazi has also repeatedly stated the reasons and given explanations which, however, have remained fruitless until now and found no consideration. This is not only lowly intelligent and illogical, but it also testifies to a deliberate lack of understanding and to a striving to push forwards to be in first place. She's talking about the other group members. They all want to be the boss. On the other hand, until now, you have been able to create a great amount of photographic evidence, etc., which testifies to our existence and which should certainly be enough. But also, this fact is not recognized, and constant further evidence of our existence and our beamships is demanded. Without exception, all the members of your group want at least visual contact with our ships, or something of the sort. Semyazi has, however, already offered this opportunity once to 4 of your group members. But this fact has also been fruitless, and more visual contacts were desired. Semyazi has conceded to this too, even though we are not very pleased about it, because a demonstration of this kind would probably remain fruitless as well. But since nothing should be left untried on our part, we have thus agreed to a last such visual contact. More will, however, deliberately not be possible. Those who can come to terms with it will get over it. With those who cannot, however, it will be better if they were no longer associated with our doings. Only wanting to satisfy one's desire for sensation is useless to our cause. Those who want to devote themselves to the things should strive in all honesty for the true knowledge and the wisdom, and move themselves away from the material forms of thinking as much as the truth requires. Anything else is futile and undermines everything. It should finally be noted that by Earth standards, we are very advanced life forms, and we can no longer move among such low, understanding-based levels as the Earth humans find themselves in. This does not represent hubris from us, but rather a law of the creation. Like it is with us, it is with all life forms, also the Earth human beings. They too can no longer move in levels below their own. Therefore, they are also no longer able to move in the planes of those life forms which, according to earthly terms, are insane, but truly just have to have a sick or underdeveloped consciousness, and in the last case are in reality just very young and ignorant in regard to the evolution, and must first develop themselves further. However, in order to be able to meet all the duties from time to time and through the existence of the creational laws, in cooperation with and with the help of higher developed universes, each world brings forth, according to each of the corresponding states of the respective human evolution, one or more life forms of extraordinarily spiritual and consciousness-based development standing, with which, in turn, many more higher-standing intelligences may come in conjunction so as to be able to transmit certain facts about consciousness-based and spiritual evolution. These extremely highly developed life forms have been called prophets on Earth, who unfortunately in their time were without exception always attacked and persecuted, a fact which has still not changed up to the present time. Even today on the earth, the prophets are cursed and blasphemed, and they are accused of fraud, of charlatanism, and telling lies and fantasies. This is so because the earth human does not hear the voice of truth and does not want to let go of his or her false realism and materialism. For all these reasons, we can only come in connection with an earthly life form that meets our requirements and with whom we can also maintain relations with. And since the earth in the last 2,000 years has only produced a single life form which corresponds to our requirements, we had to, and have to, lawfully comply in keeping ourselves to this one. All other life forms cannot be taken into consideration by us regarding a contact in connection with the mission known to you. Already, so often, communication difficulties arise in the form that our interpretations, formulations, and explanations are incorrectly integrated and analyzed when you pass them along. It must finally be clear that you alone walk hand in hand with the creation, energy, teaching, etc., and have the appropriate high consciousness and high spirit form, and as such, you are the only person that can come into connection with. And because these things are truly so, there is no need, and it is not possible to make ourselves more visible. Besides us, there are still several other extraterrestrial intelligences moving in the terrestrial space who, however, stand in a much lower stage of evolution than our own, and who are developed ahead of the Earth humans by only a few centuries, and by only around 1,243 years of further development at most. These life forms are therefore able to come into contact with the average and somewhat more intelligent Earth humans, and to communicate with them, which, however, happens only very rarely, if ever. Since these intelligences have not yet gone very far ahead of the Earth humanity in terms of development, They very often conduct themselves as rulers and can even let themselves be misled and influenced by the Earth religions, which is why many higher developed life forms in the universe must intervene in a regulatory manner to prevent severe consequences. Because where religions are widespread, always after a very short time, chaos, enslavement, exploitation, and consciousness-based enslavement rule, whereby all consciousness-based progress comes into question. Some Earth humans have taken possession of parts of contact report transcripts describing real, much earlier contacts with such extraterrestrial intelligences and created new, imaginative stories and formed religions and sects from them. Thus, they stepped or would have stepped into the public and mendaciously claimed or would have claimed that they had or would have had contacts with extraterrestrial life forms. Other Earth humans allegedly or in reality received various inspiration-type messages from such low level, respectively, from those meagerly developed in consciousness terrestrial or extraterrestrial humans, adulterated these or produced them unconsciously or consciously and untruthfully. This also resulted in malicious fantasies that purely spiritual life forms would have gotten into contact with Earth humans and would still be doing so. But this, in truth, is not so, because purely spiritual forms only establish contact with life forms which are very, very highly developed in spirit and in consciousness, as only these are able to perceive their swinging waves and can bring about the necessary understanding. So if other claims are made by the Earth humans, then these do not correspond to the truth, but rather to consciously or unconsciously deceitful fantasies. The fact is that very highly developed life forms, or even pure spirit forms, were, since always, never able to establish contact with Earth humans unless they met an extraordinarily high spiritual and consciousness-based standing, which led likewise to an extraordinarily high level, as it was the case with several true prophets. In each cosmic age, a world brings forth only a very few of such life forms who are highly developed in a spirit and consciousness-based manner. If the average form is still on a very low level of evolution, as is the case with the Earth humans. On the other hand, these highly developed life forms of such worlds, the prophets, also appear only at certain times when they are necessary. And on the Earth, this is the first time that such a case has occurred in nearly 2,000 years. This the Earth human must know. All right, this is another hour, so this is the fourth part of Contact Report 31, and I'm going to pause it here, and I'll get another one going. Talk to you later.